I guess we are starting with Start Lab, and it's glad to be here. Marina, do you want to share something before and just
Uh, just a couple of introductions. So today we are starting a very interesting format, which I hope will be regular. So the Emergathon is something which emerges and gives us new opportunities. First of all, the opportunities for the development of cities and city leaders and city administrations and city communities. And now we are glad to present in a specific way, so sort of TEDx conference, present our tools, instruments, approaches, practices, and all day long our Living Cities Earth co-founders will present the solutions for the cities. And the format is half an hour. So 20 or 25 minutes will be the presentation, after which we will have the opportunity to ask questions and to discuss something. And we are finishing in a half an hour sharp in order to pass the word to another speaker. So that's the rules. We will work together all day long, so you can come and leave us and then return. So Yuri, up to you, and please tell us about your approaches. And can you share the screen? Is everything working okay?
yes,
Perfect.
I will share screen, and yeah, I'm also the host for the first part, but I'm also a presenter. This time I'm a co-presenter with Ilaria Olimpico, um, and we're going to share about Story Lab, which is a deck of cards that we are launching. We're and going to share about that. Actually, I'm going to pass to Ilaria to start, and I will be moving the slides.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marina, for this space time. So we are two facilitators. We use social arts in different contexts, but mostly we use storytelling and theater for transformation, for personal and social transformation. We believe that personal and social are interconnected, and yeah, Story Lab is the fruit of our experience in all these years, more than 10 years. And Story Lab is a set of cards to unlock the imaginative potential that we all have. Maybe some of us lost during the so-called formal education that is most, um, for the rational intelligence, for logical intelligence, and maybe school make us losing our imagination, our other intelligences. So the goals for Story Lab are inspire creative out-of-the-box thinking, learn to work together and also have fun, appreciate different voices in the room, think about why, how we tell stories, and grow our understanding and friendship. So, yeah, these are the goals, and I think there are many dimensions of these goals, and maybe we can go deeper a little bit after. And I pass to Uri.
Yes, Story Lab again is a deck of card in development. We already have 36 of the cards, and that we want to launch a crowdfunding soon to publish them. And it could be used in countless ways. We have used them in workshops, doing different activities and methods, and even complete workshops we build around those cards, and we will share those with people who buy the cards, but also that join the workshop. But there is also, we recognize there is an infinite ways to use the cards, and then there is infinite stories. So every time you use the start, you create a story, and we'll maybe do a little bit of story now to demo that. And the storytelling is a way to cultivate cooperative, socially imaginative learning. Our target audience in the context of LCE is innovative leaders, This could mean city administrators that are seeking to bring some new way of learning together as a city, as administrators, but also on also the other levels. Innovative leaders could be also youth leadership, could be social leadership, and could be, and we have experience with working with multi-stakeholder projects with the immigration system here in Italy. So we're specifically interested to bring that to multi-stakeholder situations where there are people with different voices in the room that wants to find through the narration a common language. Creative educators. So we ourselves consider ourselves creative educators. So we're not teachers in a school, but we could be sometime. But it's like we want to bring creativity as a learning, as a tool for teachers and learners. And community weavers. So that's again something I think we consider ourselves that people that work on the grassroots level, and stories and this sort of activities are great for setting up connections within a community, a small community or a bigger community. So that's some of the target audience we thought about, and the impact or the vision we have in terms of LCE and Story Lab is we strive for it to serve greater civic engagement and community unity, utilizing and target service. So the adaptability on assessment was really difficult to capture in something like that. What we have done when we developed it is surveys and questions, so qualitative and quantitative data in terms of what people are receiving from the workshops and the storytelling themselves. And it could be that there is ways to actually harvest like insightful data through stories that citizens tell about their city in a certain way. So that could be another way to look at how it is actually an assessment tool as well. How can LC support the product? So Living Cities can amplify our visibility, provide access to connection resources which are interested in integrating social arts, tools for community care and social environmental justice, and deep social mapping tool for their cities ecosystem services. In other words, connect connect us to people and places that might benefit from it. And again, we're launching a crowdfunding, so I want to start a little demo, and so we get a sense of it, and we have a few people in the room and maybe other people watching or watching later. The invitation is to do it wherever you are, whenever you are. And then if you can share it or feel like sharing it in the chat or in the YouTube channel, please be invited to share or keep it for yourself. So this is a few of our Story Lab images. And what I invite you to do is to just observe those images. And the first kind of guided question for this particular activity is, what do you see? What do you notice in this image, in the images? Maybe something calls your attention. And you can either write it down or just note for yourself what calls your attention. Every time you would look at the images, something else will see. So now I notice the greenness of the sprouts in the earth. So that calls my attention. So just noticing, and you can name that internally. Or again, if you feel comfortable with sharing in the chat, I see horizons being shared. And if you want to unmute, you can also share. So we can see different things. And that's the beauty of images. So the next question, which has a little grammatical error, but it's actually a good one. If it were a story, how would be the protagonist, but it's who. But actually, it's also how. So who or how would be those protagonists? And so who is the protagonist in this story, if it was a story? And it could be human or animal or thing. Who would be the protagonist for you in this story? So we have the birds eating for the fish, waiting from Andy. And we can see different protagonists, different stories. And then we move to where or and how will the story begin? So where is the beginning of the story? Where does it start? It could be a specific image or a place that the beginning is. So what's the once upon a time of this story? Where is the nexus of the story of the birds waiting for the fish and the shipwrecked sailor and of horizons? Where is the beginning of the story? This is the sprouts also and begins in the earth. Great. So once you have a protagonist and a beginning, then the invitation would be to take a few minutes to write a very short story inspired by at least 3 images with a clear beginning, middle, and end. And so you can use the fact that you choose 3 images so that this is the beginning, this is the middle, this is the end, and you can use more images. And the key with this writing the story, you don't need to be a author or a writer. You just let the images speak and the words write themselves. So that's the secret of writing stories. And then you can share it at least with one person, or you can share it with us in the chat or in the comments, and then see what happens. So I'll give you a little bit of time to write. And again, think about it as almost a haiku story, a very short story, whatever comes in, like a beginning, middle, and end. And we'll take a few minutes to do that. Just let it flow from the beginning of the protagonist and just build a little story with 3 images at least. And again, if you feel like sharing that directly to the chat or the comment, that's a great gift for us, for all of us. Or otherwise, you can keep it for yourself. We already have the first story emerging. And actually, Marilyn, if you want to tell that story, you can unmute, or otherwise I can read that. So maybe I'll just read some of the short stories that we have from Andy. An empty room waiting for someone who isn't coming home. Wow, love this. Tell me a lot about where I am at. Oh, you can unmute. Can we unmute her? Let's see. Okay, Marilyn. Can you unmute now?
Yes.
Do you want to share your story? And you can also point to the images, like with her, so we know where to look to.
Very easy. I think the images will be obvious. This story is very short. Sprouts send roots into the earth. Earth grows space. Rooms emerge. And before long, a village emerges. So the top images from right to almost left.
Beautiful. Thank you. And yeah, we can tell many stories. Sometimes when we tell these stories, and maybe I'll ask Ilaria to intervene here to share a bit the context where we bring that. it's a bit more difficult in such an online format. Then someone starts the story and then someone continues it. So Merlin had a story or beginning of a story, and then maybe Andy can continue it, and so on. And maybe I pass it to Ilaria.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us in this journey into the stories and images. Yeah, I'm just from this, very, very short and simple activity, there is a lot here, right? So there is also Andy, I think, that was writing, wow, this is something about me. And yes, because images are evocative and polysemic, and each one of us is attracted by some element or some color. And it's very fascinated how we can listen to each other and enter each other's world, an imaginary world. And of course, the imaginary world is connected really to our sources, our dreams, our memories, our wounds, our hopes. So yeah, when I said in the beginning there are different dimensions, I was exactly thinking about this because you see there is a creative dimension, of course, and it's about promoting creativity, but under this there is also about training ourselves in listening to each other, in negotiating in groups. For example, when we are asked to co-create a story together in circle, maybe that I see something that another can't see. What emerged, for example, from a group, a mixed group of refugees and Italians, was this sentence that I find very powerful. Help me to see through your eyes what I can't see now. And this is for the image, but in analogy is for example, for a city, or, how I see the future city. Maybe it's very different from another perspective, and how we can make a dialogue among these visions, among these dreams. So there are different dimensions. Now I have the image, of the iceberg model. So there is what you see. Okay, it's maybe a game. It's, yes, also a game that you can play with friends. And it's about creativity, but it's also this practice of listening, this practice of negotiation. And for me, really at the bottom, it's a practice of conflict transformation and peace education. And I think this is very needed in this time of polarization and lack of listening from the earth, or from the heart and from the earth, maybe. And about also the personal and the social, how they are interconnected, as I said before, because of course, when I have a story and I, let's say, invent a story, but from where this story comes from, something that is inside. So it's personal, but also it's social, because I put my fragment into the others' pieces of stories. So it's a social story, a collective story. Yeah. So I want to give also time for questions.
Yes, we basically finished our presentation. We arrived to our last slide, which was a Q&A, and also just to share the image of the deck of, or the mock-up of the deck of cards. We're pre-launching the crowdfunding for that. But yeah, I'd be happy to get some questions from you in the chat or speaking, and I'll stop the sharing so we can see each
Yeah,
other.
just another thing, maybe Uri, that we didn't mention about the style of the cards. It's very peculiar because we mixed, the photography style, because we ask people that are in our network to send us photos, answering some questions by photos. And we asked to an illustrator, Yerim Valeria, to put some illustrations on the photographs. Why? Because in our experience, these create this frontier between reality and imagination. And so it's a space that is safe because we are not exposed too much, and there is this call to imagination, but also something that is connected to the reality.
Yeah, I don't know, Andy, or Marilyn, if you want to ask a question or comment.
Yeah, I'm loving this. I've just spent the last few days using Dale, the artificial general intelligence Dale, to produce images, right? And I was just thinking there, if you could put a set of criteria in, you could generate a specific illustration that would, fire off some things. Yeah, and I think that the possibilities for this are endless. It's wonderful, you know.
Yes, yes. This particular illustration, we got an artist from Fiverr to do them based on photos that either I took or we asked people to send us. But I also see that there's a potential, like we can probably teach the AI to create such images. We need to teach it our style. I do feel that and I've been exploring a lot AI, that there is something in the generative AI on the subtle level that doesn't quite do the same thing. Like it's technically perfect almost, or too perfect, and then there is a missing link. But I think that what's interesting in the generative AI is like to open up the space for the limits of it's too difficult, or I cannot do it. I'm not an artist. That's what we're trying to really kind of break in the belief, right? Like the belief that I'm not creative. And that's the sort of thing that we hear a lot, especially from men and in those workshop, elderly men, like, I cannot invent a story, but then they invent a story perfectly. But they're so been educated and convinced that they can't tell a story, they're not creative, that they just kind of put it out there. So it's just to get this breaking through. So I think the generative AI can actually be a creative tool as well, and we can somehow actually build on some way. So but although there is some subtle energy that comes from the artist's intention somehow, that is irreplaceable in my experience.
How hard would it be to train facilitators to facilitate the sessions?
Yeah, I think that's part of our idea, that we want to train more people to use that. And again, we have certain, let's say, exercises that we took from different mixed up things from theater of the oppressed, aesthetic of the oppressed, and other kind of presencing theater work, inspired work, and social arts. And we can we at some point with those cards, we even thought to give the activities with the cards, and then we said we just give the cards and the activities will come kind of as a website or some other thing, also because they keep growing and it's not like a really set thing. And I would say that really the key of facilitating them is really about the listening, and listening to the space and the people, not so much the exercise in itself. Well, the exercise is easy to print on a card, but it's more the listening. But I don't know, Ilaria.
Yeah, you know that I had a very strong resistance to to arrive to this point because I'm yeah, I know that there is a difference, from an exercise and a facilitated exercise, because we have, as facilitators, of course, we have premises and we have horizons. And so for me, the meaningful thing is when after an exercise or introducing an exercise, you have this awareness-based approach. So, for example, you allow people to imagine everything. There is no right or wrong answer. There is no right or wrong story. Maybe the thing that you can do after with a group of people is why we told this kind of story. What is about this story? What brings about us this story, for example? The important things maybe are the questions, not the exercise itself, not the output of the exercise, but more, okay, what was about this process? What the story tells about us, about our stories? Because we have stories and we are immersed in stories, Mm.
Yeah, we have Mandar. Let me unmute you. Yes,
Sorry, right, no, yeah.
here we go.
Uri,
Hmm.
I've seen this when we spoke. I had a question about collaboration. So in my workshops, I take people on a journey inward, and at some point of time, these seemingly polar opposites start seeing the connection with each other. So my question to you is, would you be open to doing this with a meditative component in between and checking whether the same people now tell different stories because of that inner transformation, that they are no longer that person that was there before, because trauma also defines the story we see, right? So that's where I would love to know if that can be a collaborative experience.
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes, absolutely. And the longer one is I don't have particular experience with the breath work and the meditation you do directly, but I've been a practitioner of social presence in theater, and Arowana is a meditation practitioner, and I'm also a theater of the press practitioner, and I believe there is at least two approaches for stories that are very different there between East and West. It's kind of Oriental and Western, and the kind of it's almost like the SPT is really how to train ourselves to look at things without the story, or from the kind of the and and the Western is very drama oriented. It's very kind of the story becomes kind of and everything has wisdom, but it's more like how do we find the balance between that I find fascinating. But I would love to explore that for sure. I don't know, Ilaria. We don't
Yes,
have.
let's see if we have time for the last question or comment or whatever. Also feedback.
I can offer you something, Ilaria and Uri. Thank you very much. This was really inspiring. I'm at the Eco Village Findhorn, and we're working through lots of community and governance and visioning kinds of questions now. And so there's many stories going about. And I thought, oh, this would be an interesting way to maybe give a starter prompt and get the whole community to create a story together and listen to itself, with maybe some little guidelines about where we hope the story might take us. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and imagine also to mix the cards of Storylab and photographs of the city, for example, taken by different kind of citizens, maybe a child, maybe a teenager, maybe a migrant, different perspectives, and then put all together. Yeah, it would be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's a really great idea to mix the visual. Thank you for that idea.
Yeah, we respect the time and we'll move to the presentation from Mander, but I just say that we were in Findhorn, we were doing sort of a journey and we did the We Are Earth journey and we were in some workshop space. There was not a lot of people because we didn't really know how to publish it, but we actually did some story labbing, early story labbing in Findhorn in one of the community spaces some years
And
ago.
I think one of the image, Uri, is from there, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Interesting.
There is the story, the image of the empty room. That's actually a studio space.
I'll have to go have a look at that.
Yeah, it's a studio space that we were doing the workshop in. Yeah, thank you everyone. And I'm going to take on my host hat and I'll be back to presenting later and passing the presenter hat to Mandar. And
I need to go. Bye.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.